Well, I'll start off with, on behalf of Sheriff Zach Scott, I'd like to thank the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club for having given us the opportunity to come in here and speak a little bit about the Criminal Investigations Division, but also the SWAT team. Anytime we can have an opportunity to connect with the community, we're always looking forward to that. So, again, thank you for having us here today. So I'll get started here. I'll try to keep this short. I've also brought the current SWAT team commander, Mike Raven, here. He'll be here as well. Kind of talk about the display and all that. But to get a better understanding of the SWAT team, I thought it was important that I give you sort of an overview of our division. The Sheriff's Office, real quick, is broken into 3 divisions. We have the Corrections Division. Of course, those are the jails, and we have 2 jails that house over 2,000 prisoners daily. We have a Patrol Division, which is what you see, guys driving around the cruisers and all that. And then the Investigations Division. There's a chief for each of those divisions. I happen to be the one in Investigations. But I'll kind of give you an overview of my division here, and then it'll kind of parlay right into the SWAT team as well. Real quick here. So some of the smaller units and bureaus within the Criminal Investigations Divisions are Warrants and Extradition Squad. Those are folks that go out and work arrest warrants and extradite prisoners back to Franklin County to stand trial. But within there's another small unit in there, the Child Support Enforcement unit, and that's composed of a couple of deputies that work closely with Franklin County Child Support Enforcement. Our civil process, when you think Sheriff's Office, you think law enforcement. You think locking up bad guys and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of things that we do as well that are not necessarily on the enforcement side. And our civil process unit handles those. Those are real estate foreclosures, sheriff's auctions, things of that nature, and then, of course, serving any paperwork that is issued through the court systems. Also within my division is the Emergency Operations Center. So anytime we have a large-scale event, whether it's people think emergency operations, they think active shooter, they think terrorism and all that kind of stuff, but it really goes beyond that. So when we have floods or tornadoes and things of that nature, we will activate the Emergency Operations Center and work closely with some of our other partners in the community. The property room also falls under my division. Of course, that is where we hold property, evidence, things of that nature. Special Investigations Unit, that is narcotics and vice for the most part. But inside there we have a number of other task forces, both federal, state, and on the local level that we participate on. Some of those are the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Of course, that's terrorism, and that is ran by the FBI. But the task force really is a combination of local resources working alongside our federal partners on that to combat terrorism. Some other ones, DEA Task Force, South Central HIDTA, or Bulk Cash, Smuggling Task Force. Those are drug task forces. And then the Sheriff's Office, we run our own drug task force, and we have a number of partners that work out of our office. It's really a force multiplier is what it is, and it's called the Franklin County Drug Task Force. A lot of the local area drug busts that you see, that's the work of the Franklin County Drug Task Force. We have folks that are a part of the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force. They handle a lot of organized crime, gang-related crime that happens here locally in Central Ohio. We have someone that's assigned to the Strategic Analysis Information Center, or SIAC. That's sort of a fusion center, a think tank, if you will, that's operated through Department of Homeland Security through the state. And we have folks that work there as well. And then, of course, Internet Crimes Against Children. I'm sure you've seen a lot of their work on television in terms of child pornography cases and whatnot. And it's really a sad case there in some of the things that they handle there. But that, too, is a task force that's operated from the Sheriff's Office that partners with a number of other local agencies. Like the Worthingtons and folks of that nature, they send officers to work out of our office. And again, it's a force multiplier is what it is. Our Detective Bureau, we handle everything from homicide all the way down to theft and everything in between. Burglaries, thefts, frauds, and all that good stuff. But within the Detective Bureau, we have a Juvenile Bureau that handles anything where the suspect or victim is someone under the age of 18. Auto Theft Squad, Identity Theft, Sex Offender Notification Network, or SORN. So when someone's convicted of a sexually oriented offense, they are labeled as a sex offender. They're required by law to come and register within the county that they reside in. But we also track some of those folks that live outside Franklin County but may work in Franklin County. And I'll get to some of the numbers a little bit later here. The stalking unit as well, we partner with the City Prosecutor's Office, the County Prosecutor's Office, and the Columbus Division of Police. Again, that's a task force that's operated out of our office, combating violence against predominantly women, but children and pretty much anybody that stalking behaviors, harassment, and those sort of types of crimes. To go a little bit deeper into some of these, real quick, civil process. Some of these numbers may be surprising, maybe not. Our civil process unit, again, not on the enforcement side necessarily, but handling foreclosed properties, evictions, repossessions, things of that nature. They've issued about 7,000 foreclosed properties in Franklin County per year. And every Friday we have a sheriff's auction that's held downtown in the Franklin County Courthouse in the auditorium there. Issue over 2,600 writs of possession. Those are typically repossessions and things of that nature. 50,000 court orders. Those can be subpoenas or any issued paperwork that comes from the court system that has to go out into the community and be served. Our folks handle those as well. So they stay quite busy. Protection orders. That's something that's on the rise. Once upon a time, the kids, I'll give you an example here. Once upon a time, the kids would get into an argument in school. They would kind of, shoulder to shoulder in the hallway, and I'll meet you out by the bike rack. Well, things have changed this day and age where, anytime a kid feels threatened or anybody in the workplace or whatever, they have the opportunity to come down and file a protection order. Well, those are then issued by the court, but then we have to go out and serve those. Before they're in place, they have to be served face-to-face with the person that they're filed against. So our folks are quite busy serving those as well. Carry conceal also falls under my division. Since 2004, when Ohio's carry conceal law was passed, they've issued over 30,000 permits. We lead all Ohio counties for the past 5 consecutive years in terms of CCW permits that are issued. That unit is self-sufficient, meaning that the fees that are collected also pay for the staff and all that kind of stuff. So those folks aren't paid out of the general fund or tax dollars. They would come right out of the CCW program themselves. And each year we've seen an increase of about 25%. So whenever we see these Sandy Hook type situations or these active shooter situations, we always know that there's going to be a spike in CCW permits that folks that apply for. And then they also do over 7,000 web checks, and those are generally background checks that are done through BCI for employment applications or whatnot. Property handles impounds of contraband, anything illegal, evidence, cash, whether it's drug seizures, firearms. We store property. Chain of custody is extremely important, as most of you are well aware. There's been some significant cases out here around the country where they have been lost, where chain of custody became an issue. So we take that very seriously. Disposal and release of property. So we take all this stuff in, and then we have to dispose of it at some point. And that's we partner with a number of different agencies in terms of complying with EPA laws and all that kind of stuff to dispose of drugs and guns and all that good stuff. And try to do it as efficiently as possible. Our warrants and extradition squad are what we refer to commonly as our fugitive squad. A little quick information about them. They work misdemeanor felony arrest warrants. Partner closely with the U.S. Marshal's Office. We actually have some folks that are attached to a task force. It's referred to as S.W.A.T, that's the acronym. And again, we work closely with the prosecutor's office and victim advocates in terms of working DV warrants and things of that nature, or child support stuff. Our probate, we work probates as well. So, you get somebody in the family that's not all quite there. Family will petition the court. And a probate order is then issued. And then we have to go out and unfortunately take this person into custody, sometimes using force, and then take them to a healthcare facility so they can be evaluated. The unfortunate thing about probate orders is they're going up in terms of numbers. But what's also alarming also is those things can turn very violent very quickly. When you come to somebody's house and you're telling them that somebody believes that you're not all there upstairs and you need to be evaluated in the hospital, oftentimes people don't want to go willingly. And unfortunately, we're kind of caught in the middle there. We have to take them there. So those situations can turn very violent quickly. And then they also extradite prisoners back to the Franklin County area. And you see some of the numbers here in terms of travel by vehicle and by air each year. We go everywhere in the United States and Puerto Rico to bring prisoners back. And Yes, Puerto Rico. We go there a few times a year to bring prisoners back to Franklin County to stand trial for various crimes with Ron O'Brien's office to do so. Our photo lab, a little bit about that. Develop and print photographs. It's prisoner mugshots, crime scene photos, accident photos, and then even special events. The Sheriff's Office is involved in every single special event that happens in the Central Ohio area, whether it's the Memorial Tournament, Red, White, and Boom, Arnold Classic, any of those things. We work very closely with other agencies in terms of keeping people safe at those events and allow them to enjoy them. Also process photos for a number of smaller agencies who don't have their own photo lab, and some of those are listed here as well. Special Investigations Unit, Narcotics and Vice. It's a covert investigations, basically what they handle, anything that's undercover. Internet Crimes Against Children also operates out of there. Our Vice Investigations, they handle a lot of prostitution, dogfighting, gambling, and whatnot. And again, the collection of evidence as well, and in criminal intelligence. Go back here. That picture there at the top, that is, and I'll get to this maybe one of the next slides. Those are pictures of bath salts. Here a couple of years ago, we launched an effort against bath salts, and we executed about 18 search warrants within a couple of days there, arrested a number of individuals that were trafficking in these illegal synthetic drugs, and those are some of the photos of some of the stuff we seized here. One of the perpetrators just stood trial here about a week ago and was convicted and sentenced to 35 years in prison, which honestly in the drug world, because just the mere volume of cases they handle, 35 years is a really significant sentence for him. So we're pretty happy with the outcome of that case. A little bit more about it. As I mentioned, we partner in a number of task forces, whether that's terrorism, drugs, human trafficking, violent crimes. And as I mentioned, the Franklin County Drug Task Force, it's basically a force multiplier. These are some of the agencies that basically work out of our office. So they send one of their officers who come and work out of our office. A lot of that task force is funded through state dollars with the HIDTA program, or the High Intensity Drug Trafficking program there. Those are some of our partnering agencies. As I mentioned, when I say bath salts, I truly mean, when I say pioneer bath salts, we truly did pioneer bath salts. A couple of years ago, bath salts were relatively new in terms of enforcement across the state of Ohio. And the unique thing about bath salts is it's a synthetic drug, and what was happening was these homemade or homegrown chemists, if you will, would read up on the laws, find out the chemicals that were illegal, and then they would manipulate those makeups to stay out in front of the law. So then the products they were manufacturing were found not to be illegal, and they were kind of staying in front of the law, if you will. So a lot of agencies across Ohio were working these cases. Now there was some significant legislation that was recently passed that made those analog. So if they do change it and it's not something similar to the original version or another drug, it makes it illegal. So with that, we kind of jumped on those legislative changes and launched an effort against synthetic drugs, bath salts, the K2s, the synthetic marijuanas, and whatnot. And we've had some pretty significant cases. So when I say we pioneered bath salts, we truly did. It's funny, I went to speak at a state conference here a year or so ago. They wanted me to speak on bath salts. I get up there, didn't expect the crowd there. There's I walk out on stage and there's like 350 people there. These are all cops and lawyers and all that kind of stuff. We started talking about bath salts, and it was funny that nobody else in the state was working it. And we were the only ones. Afterwards, of course, there's like a line of people, investigators lining up saying, how did you guys do this? How did you stay out in front of the law and all that kind of stuff? So something we're really proud of. These are some other cases here that we've worked recently that with some significant seizures here. I'll let you read for yourself here. Some of the prescription pill cases that we've worked. Some quite large cash seizures we had at a storage shed, prostitution stings that we've done, and that's everything from streetwalkers to some of these websites, Backpage and some of those things offer massages, if you will. When you order those massages, oftentimes that's not what they're really for. So we did some sting operations on those as well. So we've had some significant numbers with those. In 2013, these are some of our numbers here in terms of cases, drug cases that were worked, and again, some more of the seizures down there as well. Internet crimes against children. Again, we have a number of partnering agencies, too many to list up here, about 12 of them. And they investigate anything with the sexual exploitation of children. It's illegal to possess, disseminate, or any of that stuff with child pornography. Even and we don't target. I'll tell you, there's a misconception you see on some of the news stories and all that kind of stuff that if somebody accidentally downloads an image or they're trying to download a song and they open it up and it's a child pornography image. No, the sheriff's office is not going to be knocking on your door to arrest you. These are folks that have been downloading for years and have thousands of images. You don't accidentally download thousands of child pornography. I guess if you're really clumsy, maybe you do. I don't know. But the cases that we do are significant offenders here. And I'll tell you, it is sad, the state of affairs in that world there. We do cases where you have parents who are online basically soliciting their own children, that are looking for like-minded people on the internet who are offering up their own children for the sexual pleasure of others. It's a really sad thing. We call this travelers. And we've done a number of traveler cases where we've arrested some of these folks. And I mentioned here at the bottom here, we're seeing an increase in juvenile sexting cases. These kids, they take a picture, they think of their something they're going to share with just their boyfriend or girlfriend. They send that out there. A week later, they break up, and the next thing you know, that ex-boyfriend is now sharing it with the entire school. So we've seen a significant increase in those, and then of course this time of the year we'll see more of that because in the summer, when kids go away, the way they stay connected is through their smartphones. They're not seeing the kids every day in school or every day at football practice or whatever. So in the summer, they use their phones and whatnot to stay connected. So we'll see a spike in those cases over the summer. Emergency Operations Center, real quick. Everything we do is compliant with ICS and NIMS. Again, not just the enforcement side, but even pandemic. So if there's a BioWatch type hazard here, we participate in the distribution of medicines and whatnot for first responders. So we have plans drawn up for all that. And again, we participate in the planning of any significant special event here in Central Ohio. Detective here, if anybody recognizes these pictures here, as I mentioned in my bio, worked on the 270 Highway Shooter Task Force, or that case there. The sheriff, many of you knew this, but the sheriff, Zach Scott, was the lead investigator on that case. I served as the co-lead on that case, and these are some photos there. Gail Nisley, of course, on your right there, she was the woman that was killed on 270. Sorry for the rather graphic photo there. It was sort of a before and after image of a homicide victim there. Sex Offender Network, again, we operate under Megan's Law and the Adam Walsh Act. We have about 1,700 active sex offenders in Franklin County. Way too many, really. 475 people that are currently incarcerated that have been labeled as sex offenders who are waiting to get out. So we expect that 1,700 number to rise as well. And then, again, as I mentioned, we got about another 145 who live outside Franklin County, maybe live in Fairfield County, but come to Franklin County and work, and we try to keep an eye on those people as well. Monumental task, though, because I've got basically 5 people assigned to the sex offender unit, and trying to track 1,700 people with 5 is very difficult, but we do our very best there. Stalking, as I mentioned here, that's everything from not just domestic violence situations, but also harassing behavior as well. Many of these cases don't even lead to prosecution, where you have a breakup or a marriage or that's dissolved and somebody is participating in some harassing behavior. Maybe they're driving by their house repeatedly. When folks call with that information, and we have to investigate that and sort of vet that information out and see if it rises to the level of prosecution. And oftentimes they don't, but it's something that we still take very seriously and work on. There's a picture of our SWAT team here, and we'll kind of get into the SWAT stuff here. A little bit about SWAT. We have one lieutenant as the commander. That's Mike Raven here. And Mike, you want to come up here and join me up here on stage in case there's any questions, that kind of stuff. We have, of course, 2 sergeants, 2 corporals, 16 deputies or operators. We have a medic. And we also partner with a doctor through Doctors West Hospital. He does a lot of training for medics and stuff on the team in terms of care for not only our people, but folks that may be injured while we're out operating. So it's a great partnership we have there. Our selection process for SWAT is based on physical standards, running, jumping, that sort of thing, but also firearms qualifications as well. Some photos there. Our SWAT team responds to not just here in Franklin County, but also all over the state. And the reason for that is the state of Ohio is broken up into regions, Homeland Security regions. We are Region 4 here in Central Ohio. That is 14 counties. So we're really sort of responsible for that. And what that means is we get federal dollars to buy equipment. But then the caveat to that is they'll buy us equipment, but then we have to agree to respond outside Franklin County to any one of those other 15 counties if needed. So that's sort of the trade-off in getting a lot of the equipment that we have. And we've responded all over. They handle hostage barricade situations, suicidal individuals, force anything with deadly weapons, drug raids, high-risk arrest warrants, probates, even some dignitary protection. Last week, past President Bill Clinton was in town speaking at an engagement at the Celeste Center, and we had some folks that had done some work prior to kind of scouting the area, doing bomb squad sweeps and stuff of that nature as well. Here's some of our numbers from 2014. We also, to stay up on our craft here, our guys do probably over, this is kind of a conservative number here, but probably over 20 hours per month in terms of training. Those are scenario-based things they do, and also firearms proficiency and all that good stuff. We participate in a number of joint exercises, partnering agencies. And the two things here that are listed on the bottom here, I've been very fortunate in my career. I've been here 23 years. I've worked in every division. I'm truly blessed. I really am with my experiences. But I've also had the experience to train with Israeli special ops. Those guys are the real deal. They truly are. They came here to the United States and did some training at the airport in terms of airplane takeovers and that sort of thing. It's some of the best training I've ever been to. I also was one of 7 guys who got the opportunity to go down, and what you see in the media termed as SEAL Team 6, it's really the developmental group. They are the varsity, if there is, of the SEAL teams. Got an opportunity to go down to Dambek, Virginia, and stay at their training facility there and train with them for a week. And those guys are truly in a league of their own. I mean, we thought we were good, and by the end of the week, we were just like, oh, you guys are the real deal. So, very fortunate to get an opportunity to go down and train with those folks and bring some of that information back. Just some photos here of some of the equipment that we have. This is our equipment truck here. Carry around shields and extra ammunition and guns and whatnot, medical gear, all that. We take this on typically most drug raids and whatnot, or barricades where we might have to access some of that equipment here. Mobile command, so we take this out on any large-scale operation. Many of you may have seen this. Probably see it most frequently up at the OSU games, at the OSU football games on Saturdays in the fall. We take the mobile command up there. We run field operations out of the mobile command here. Anytime you get over 100,000 people in one place, there's a lot of planning and preparation that goes in that and running that, trying to keep the area safe for everybody to enjoy. But we run the field operations out of this. And, because OSU, let's face it, I mean, great university, but it's a very small police department, and they truly don't have the resources to keep 100,000 people plus safe on a Saturday afternoon. Drash tent, we have a military drash tent that we take if we're going to be anywhere for a long time. We got called one time down to Ross County. They had a fellow that had murdered a police officer down there that escaped from their jail, and he was loose out in the woods down there, and we were down there for about 3 days hunting for him. Ended up capturing him down there, but our SWAT team lived out of this thing. It's got a compressor and all kind of stuff that can pump heat or air condition into that tent there. So, communications trailer here that we use on small events. We have 2 armored vehicles. This one here is an older model that actually the team refers to as a Baby Bear. It's a smaller version. Because they're called the Bearcats is what they are. And then this is the newer one that they call Papa Bear. That's kind of the name they come up with. But this is the newer one, on armored vehicles. And again, we take this on drug raids or anything like that we might come under fire or any of that kind of stuff. Just a little mission statement that's from my division here. I tell my people all the time, the key words that pop out for me here is exceptional, innovative, diligence and compassion. Everything we do, I want to do exceptional. I want to be very professional in everything we do, innovative. I like creative people thinking outside the box. Diligence, hard work, and then compassion. It's the success of any program, whether it's a business or any of that nature, or even public safety. The success of that is truly with relationships and communication. So I'm always preaching that to my folks here. So a little photo here, guys took. It was kind of cool. Took it at nighttime with some headlights behind it, and had some letters put on here as well. Sorry, let's cut it off here. There's a little information here. If you go to our website, if you go to the Franklin County Sheriff's Office website, on the bottom left-hand corner, there is an opportunity to sign up for our newsletter. We have a number of programs, RAD, the VIPS program, Volunteers in Public Safety, that you can sign up for, get information as well. But we have a new program that may interest you, CRACE, and I'll actually let Mike talk a little bit more about it. It's a civilian response to active shooter situations. So it's not like cops training the cops. It's basically cops training you and your people to how to respond if a situation like that would arise in your place of business. So I'll let Mike talk a few minutes about that, and then I'll let Mike answer any questions related to the equipment and all that good stuff.
This work is painful. I'm not a very good speaker, so I apologize. My name is Mike Raven. I've been in the Sheriff's Office over 20 years. I've worked patrol multiple years as a patrolman and a supervisor. Actually, the chief and I got on S.W.A.T. together 14 years ago. Obviously, he's a lot smarter than I am. So he would have saw the rank structure, you would see that. But basically, I'm here to answer questions for you guys about the SWAT team. I brought a few of the weapons. They're all unloaded. They carry. So come up, grab whatever you want. I've also brought the vest they wear. You can definitely come up, pick that up if you like. It's just a few pounds. You can see what they'll wear on a day like today and run around. But this CRACE is kind of the sheriff and the chief are real big about active shooters. Because if we all watch the news, it's everywhere. I just came back from training in Texas, where we were training other law enforcement agencies, and we're bringing up here in Columbus. The sheriff and the chief, their main concern is the civilian population. Most of the time, people are always told to run and hide. Well, then they're just hunting for you. So they're coming up with something now, or who came up with this? Community Relations. Basically, you're not fighting back. They're coming up with, they partnered with Lowe's and Home Depot, and they're getting little buckets. And they'll put in businesses in certain locations that have things that like tie doors shut, to shim doors. Just stuff like that they can bunker themselves in. It's not perfect, but it's something to help. If it saves one life, those buckets, if you get 1,000 buckets and it saves one life, it's well worth it. So we're starting to develop this. I think Channel 10 is real interested in it, so we should have a news story on it soon. But any business owners or anything you think you would evaluate with that, it's a great program. It's new. We're looking for groups to take it out. And basically how it begins is, it begins a scenario like this. You get a big business, everyone doesn't know everyone. So we'll put one of our guys in there as listeners. No one knows who he is. And they'll start talking about it. He'll be up here talking. He'll start asking silly questions that don't really make sense, just to show you how quickly something can escalate. And then he just gets up with a fake gun, and you just watch everyone take off running. It's in the works. It works just to show people how quickly these things escalate. But the main thing of this is you're not fighting back. You're just, just bunkering down, hiding until help gets there. So with that being said, anything else?
Anybody have any questions or anything like that?
Okay. This here, we just recently went to these. If you talk to anybody in law enforcement, they're all about the 45s, the end-all end round. Now with all the 9mm, actually SEAL Team 6, this is the same weapon they use. It's 9mm, 6-hour P226. They come with 20-round magazines because basically the sidearm is our backup gun if one of the main ones go down. And the problem we had with the 45, it's only an 8-round magazine. Well, if your main gun goes down, you probably want more than 8 rounds. So these come with 20, so you go from having 3 magazines to 24 to 3 magazines to 60. So the guys who carry these, great guns, great shooting guns. Right below it is an HK MP5 submachine gun. With it is the silencers attached to it. The gun's only this big, but this helps the suppressor. It's keeping it quiet, and it's 9mm. We're phasing these out because of all the problems of penetration. Most guys are going to the M4. This is what the troops carry. We have different ones. We have Colt, we have Bushmaster. We're basically going to the 5.56 M4s. And so one of the guys, they'll have one of these, and everyone has one of these. And they'll carry all this in their cars, including this vest. There we go.
What's the weight of it?
This vest, when you're wearing it outside today, it's about 500 pounds. But it's probably about, with the ceramic plates in it, 50 pounds, 60 pounds. But the ceramic plates will stop a rifle round. I mean, we don't want to test it. We're just going to hope they do. But anybody wants to come up and play around with this, feel free. Take some good photos.
How many rounds in the, is that M4 you said?
M4, 30-round magazines. Just that's 30 round with the MP5 too.
What's the caliber?
Which one, sir?
The bottom one.
5.56, 223.
What's that penetrate?
What's this penetrate? This depends the round you have in it. Lots of times, Columbus Police and ourselves, we have a round called a tap round. Basically, you'll use it in an urban environment, so when it hits walls, it will disintegrate, so you don't have the over-penetration of a heavier round. But you also have glass-penetrating rounds that we use. Specifically for car vehicles, you'll use them on house barricades with windows. So, because a lot of times when you hit a window, the round will deflect, and you don't want to have that, especially if you have hostages in there. Yes, sir.
What is the stopping power of the 9mm against the 45?
Well, of course, the 45 is going to be a little bit better because it's such a heavier round. But it's what we teach guys is shot placement. It's really all shot placement. Now, 45, you get hit in the leg, you're going to feel a lot more than a 9. But in real life, if you're going to your pistol, you're really in a bad situation. So like anything, I'd rather have more rounds to get that than have less rounds. So it's one of those trade-offs. I like the 45, but it's one of those things you're like, you almost flip a coin. So they're actually developing now, of course, after we buy these 45s that have higher capacity. But it's probably going to be a boat anchor.
Anybody else?
What's the most difficult criminal problem that you have in terms of containing it and worrying about the future?
I'll tell you, from my perspective right now, probably the biggest problem we have is heroin, to be honest. The heroin epidemic is really out of control, but it's not just same situation. It's not just the situation here, but it's really across the country. You know, a lot of these folks start out with pain medications, being addicted to them, and then they graduate to abusing heroin, really because of the sheer price of it. You know, typically, I worked undercover for a little while. Typically, prescription medications on the street go for about $1 a milligram. So, a 30 milligram tablet of Oxy goes for about $30 on the street. Well, if you're popping those a couple times a day, it becomes a pretty expensive habit. Whereas then they'll graduate to heroin, and heroin is typically like black tar and that kind of stuff is packaged in balloons, or they'll put it in small like aluminum foil or whatever, and that's $10 for a hot, just as good a high. But with heroin, it really multiplies a bunch of other crimes here, because what happens is when these folks are addicted to drugs, then they go out and they start burglarizing homes, start breaking into cars, and they start doing these desperate things to feed their habit. Otherwise, they're not really burglars, so to speak. They're not looking for, but it's a crime of opportunity. They're looking to make quick money. Break into somebody's house in the daytime when they're at work. Steal, small things they can carry, jewelry, cash, guns, things they can also offload quickly to then feed that drug habit. So really it goes back to the root of the problem. Really, what we're seeing is heroin. But I'll tell you, heroin is also a very difficult drug to work in terms of, working undercover. To get in with these groups, typically you have to have a confidential informant that will introduce you to do that. And getting these confidential informants like on the hook, so to speak, and keep them on the hook is very difficult, because most of them are addicts themselves. So they may cooperate with us for a week and everything's going good, and then all of a sudden they fall off the wagon. We can't find them. They're laid up in some house. Hi, well, now I can't trust him anymore. I can't. So then that whole case sort of falls apart for a little while until I'm able to put together another CI and keep the case going. So there's a lot of difficult challenges with heroin. The
suppliers of heroin typically are way more counter surveillance savvy, if you will. One guy's a dealer, but he may have 2 or 3 lookouts. Once you do a deal with somebody, an undercover deal, and you're leading to this big bust, well, then he'll have counter surveillance following my guys back to the office, and it's like a big cat and mouse game. It's really difficult. Those cases last forever. In the meantime, the heroin epidemic is only getting worse. So, it's really, and I talk to guys all the time about these burglaries and things. Those are quality of life crimes, is what those are. Somebody breaks into your car and they steal your wallet. You can look at that and say, did you lose much? Well, you didn't lose much, but now for the next couple of weeks, your life's turned upside down. You have no driver's license, you got to go get a new one issued, you got to go to the Social Security office, now you got to cancel all your bank cards, so now you can't use them for the next few days. So it really screws up your quality of life when you have those crimes, and they're really crimes that are being fed by a heroin addiction. So that's what I see from my standpoint. Yes, sir.
I think on the news last night they had a short blurb about finding 2,700 pounds of marijuana in the back of a pickup. If you're allowed to tell us, how in the heck do they know that? I mean, how do they say, well, here's the car, and I know that there's something in it?
I'll tell you, what a lot of people don't know is, it's a little scary, that Columbus is truly a hub for not just drugs, but terrorism as well. It really is. And the drugs, a lot of the drugs that come